The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic Monday. My name is Lucy West, and I'm your APhA-ASP National President. Welcome to the Chapter Achievement Report webinar tonight. We hope this session tonight will help you gain more knowledge about how to effectively and efficiently write your chapter reports. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to the Vice Chair of the 2014-2015 Award Standing Committee, Amy Kiskaden.
Hello everyone, I hope you guys are having a great evening, and we're going to go ahead and get started here with our webinar for tonight. And first I'd like to go ahead and introduce the rest of the Award Standing Committee to you, and we'll all be taking a part in talking to you tonight about really how to go about writing your chapter achievement report and what constitutes a well-written report. So as Lucy mentioned, she is the chair, and then I have served as your vice chair this year. And additionally, we have Jamie Kramer, Allie Lloyd, and Abby Searles, who have also been part of the standing committee for you all. And we have been fortunate and lucky enough to have Crystal Atwell serve as our APhA staff liaison to the committee this year. Just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to plan on covering tonight is we're going to go over just in general the purpose of the achievement reports, go through the different components of them for this coming cycle, and then as well as touch briefly on the optional and individual awards that you can submit for. We'll go through the report submission process in addition to the evaluation process, and then we'll look at some tips for a successful report, as well as some important links and contact information that you all will need as you're writing these reports this year, and questions will most likely come up in that process. So first, I'd like to just talk a little bit about why we even submit chapter achievement reports. And I think it really goes through showing you that there are just some very important benefits of having a yearly Chapter Achievement Award report. And first of all, think of it as a way to document what your chapter is doing in your chapter activities. Additionally, it helps you look back, your advisors, your past presidents, the new practitioner liaisons, look back and see how your chapter has grown over time. It is also required for you to maintain your charter with the American Pharmacists Association, Academy of Student Pharmacists, and it also allows for recognition of your chapter activities, whether at MRM for regional awards or for national awards. In addition, there's the opportunity to develop and further develop your writing skills, and it also allows us to really see the positive impact that we're making across the country on the profession. And then it allows APhA to really see through the different activities that are going on at your chapter where there might be needs for new programming or strengthening of certain programs. So by writing your Chapter Achievement Report Award, there's different awards that you can get. And the first, as some of you may have who are at APhA 2015 saw, is we do present a Chapter of the Year award, and this goes to the chapter who demonstrates incredible strength in all areas of their report. Additionally, there are divisional awards which are awarded based on the size of your school, and that you can see here the divisions are broken down by A, AA, AAA, and that's based on the enrollment size of your student body. And then in addition to the overall winner in the divisional awards category, there are first and second runner-ups. We also have specialty awards, and this would be in the patient care policy, professionalism, and then we also have an up-and-coming chapter award. And there's also opportunities to receive awards in the most improved chapter category, the innovative programming category, and the outstanding IPSF activity award. So going into now a little bit of the components of their chapter achievement report. Every report should consist of a chronological list, an essay, the executive summary, the chapter statistical information questionnaire, the bylaws. Only submit these, though, if they've actually been updated or changed during this past year's reporting cycle. So from last July through this July's, if they've changed in that time, then you would submit your bylaws, as well as your chapter goals and objectives, and then in addition, the submission confirmation form. And just to make a note on the confirmation form, you will submit that confirmation form will be for the Chapter Achievement Award Report as well as the Patient Care Project essays, which are read by by another standing committee. They're not read by the award standing committee. So now we're going to delve just a little bit deeper into the different components, and we're going to start off by talking about the chronological list. And this, you can see here, many of you are familiar with this, and we really recommend that you go ahead and, if you haven't already had these compiled, that you go ahead and start compiling these now, because you'll need these for every activity event that you've had. Some of these, such as the meetings, you've had multiple meetings, they can be grouped into one, but we do read through your entire chronological list, so it's extremely important that you document each activity in your chronological list, so we have that when we read through. In addition, there'll be an essay that you'll submit, and that will be one essay composed of 4 separate sections. And there'll be a section that you'll write on the overall leadership and operations at your chapter, as well as an essay talking about patient care. That will include the national patient care initiatives, Operation Diabetes, Operation Heart, Operation Immunization, policy and advocacy, and then professionalism. Now just note, there's a 1,500 word limit, and that is per section of the for each one. But then all of these four separate sections should be combined and submitted as one PDF into your chapter's Dropbox. And then for more details on the guidelines for each section, we recommend that you really look and review the reporting guidelines when they're released in early May this year. So now we're going to delve into the different sections of the essays. So we mentioned in the last slide, we talked about how there's a leadership and operations section. And this is going a little bit more detail of what that section involves. And what we'd like to see is a description of the logistics at your chapter, that you discuss the fall, spring membership campaigns and membership in general. You also talk about fundraising. And you discuss what the leadership is at your chapter, and then how you are promoting leadership outside of your chapter, as well as giving us some insight into how members are involved, and then how your typical chapter meetings run, and then as well as talking about any kind of professional or communications or public relations type of things that your chapter does. That is always helpful in what we prefer to see in the overall operations and leadership section. After that, you have the patient care section. And so this is where we're going to touch on the major patient care national initiatives, which is Operation Diabetes, Operation Immunization, Operation Heart, and Generation RX can also be reported in this section. Now just note, these are different than the patient care essays that you will write for each individual patient care project. This is part of the Chapter Achievement Award Report, and so it's consisting of these 4 patient cares in that one 1,500 word section. Also note, Operation Self-Care is not being reported this year because that is being phased out. So in this section, as you'll see with really all 4 sections of this essay, is always try to touch on the innovation, the involvement, and the impact. And this kind of, in a way, almost provides an outline for you in what to do and how to go about even structuring your report. But it really is up to you all. But this is what we like to see as well touched on in the report, to see how you've been innovative in your patient care projects, what is the overall involvement, and you can see the sub-bullet points there of some of the different detailed descriptions, as well as what was the outcome of the activity. In addition, there's the policy and advocacy section, and with this you can see, again, it's the same structure with innovation, involvement, and impact, but then you can see some of the different things that would be included in this section, such as MRM, the Annual House of Delegates, American Pharmacist Month. Very important to report and share with us the exciting things your chapter is doing during the month of October and how you're advancing the profession, as well as your state association meetings, any policy proposals, and then your legislative days and outreach types of health fairs that you would do in collaboration with policy and advocacy type events. And then the fourth section of that one large essay is the professionalism section. And again, I'll reiterate, it really should follow the innovation, involvement, and impact outcomes for the overall structure and design. And then within this section, a couple, I think, things that are usually included would be the Summer Leadership Institute, professional development at your school. So, for instance, does your chapter have a CV workshop? Are you doing interview workshops? Do you have etiquette dinners? Those are all activities that are helping to build your students professionally and grow them in their skills, as well as community service, things that aren't necessarily related to some of the national patient care initiatives, but extra things. And then interprofessional and intraprofessional activities. And the best way to remember these two is that the interprofessional activities are those activities that are done with other healthcare professionals, medicine, dentistry, nursing, PA, occupational therapy. Those are all examples of other health professions that you work with and do maybe collaborative health screenings with. And then as well as intra-professional activities. And these are activities done within the profession. So collaboration with other student organizations, maybe working with, a new practitioner, working with other professionals in the pharmacy, a local community pharmacy. Those would be examples of the intra-professional activities that we would encourage you all to include in this section. As well as the, in addition to the chronological list and then the one large chapter achievement award report essay, you will also submit an executive summary and statistical information. And then there's a template, there'll be a template that you follow, but then most of this all this information is submitted online. And then as previously mentioned, if your chapter has updated your bylaws or constitution after July 15th of 2014, so anytime between then and July of this coming reporting cycle, then you would go ahead and submit the updated bylaws. If not, it's not required. And then you'll also submit your chapter goals and objectives, and then again, you will have your confirmation page that will be signed by your chapter advisor. And just to reiterate again, this does include the patient care project report submission. So those are the other patient care project essays that you all write that are read by a different committee. In addition, these are optional documents but highly encouraged. Pictures really are worth 1,000 words, and when you properly cite them and reference them in your essay, they really do a lot to help us understand and see exactly what you all are describing in your words. But please note that you submit high quality pictures, because those are most helpful for us. And as well as you can submit some more supporting materials as well, such as PDFs. Maybe your chapter created a really nice flyer or presentation and you'd like to include that as well and reference it in your report. We definitely encourage those to be included as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jamie Kramer, and she's going to talk about some of the additional awards that your chapter can submit for.
All right, good evening, everyone. Clearly, I'm not sure what time I'm at. But to start off, we're going to talk about the Most Improved Chapter Award. And this has a deadline of July 15th, and it does require a separate award submission from your Chapter Achievement Awards. And this award doesn't matter what your chapter size is or how long you have been a chapter. We're just wanting to see improvements over the past 3 years. So really focus on showing the award standing committee what you all have changed over the past 3 years. having numbers, having increased in patients being seen, patients being referred, different things like that really will speak volumes to us. So it can be focused on the chapter structure or your operations, how you all recruited members, how you all participated in the dual membership drive, any of your patient care projects or your advocacy and professionalism events, really any area that your chapter has grown in. And the biggest thing here is for you to discuss the outcomes. So we really want to look at the impact the chapter has had over those past 3 years of growth. The next optional award we have is the Chapter Innovative Programming Award. And again, this requires a separate award submission. And we're really wanting to look at either a single activity or a series of activities that had one theme. And these should not be part of your Operation Immunization, Operation Heart, Operation Diabetes, or Generation RX. And we really want them to be something that is unique and innovative to your own chapter. Again, just focus on that collaboration with other chapters and really showing us the innovation and the impact that your all's program had either on your own members or on your community. The next optional award is the Outstanding IPSF Activity Award. Again, it's a separate award submission. We really want this to focus on the IPSF specific activities. So those are going to be the tobacco and HIV and AIDS awareness, healthy living and diabetes, the humanitarian campaign, and then the student exchange program and attending any international meetings. There has been, I guess, some questions about what really falls into the IPSF activities. So if you are doing Operation Diabetes, if you're reaching out to a patient population that's underserved or maybe of a different ethnic background than you normally would deal with, that could be something that would fall under the healthy living and diabetes category. Again, just wanted to want you all to talk about the innovation that your chapter has done and the impact. Innovation and impact is something that you're going to hear us say over and over again throughout the reports, and that's because we can really see through those two things how your chapter is unique among all of the chapters that we read about throughout this process. So those are our optional chapter awards, and then moving into the individual awards, it's important to note that these do have a different deadline. We have them all listed within this PowerPoint. So most of these are going to require a letter from the nominator, a CV and a resume for the nominee, and then letters of support. Most of them will require at least 3 letters with a maximum of 6 letters of support. So the first award we have is the APhA-ASP Linwood F. Tice Friend of APhA-ASP Award. And this is looking at a lifetime achievement for a person that has been dedicated to APhA-ASP and really developing student pharmacists and promoting student pharmacists within the profession. And the letters of support can, and it's encouraged to have them come from either current student pharmacists or previous student pharmacists who the nominee had, dealt with during their time. The next award is the APhA-ASP Outstanding Dean Award, and this is really looking for a dean that has promoted student pharmacist welfare and really made contributions to the APhA-ASP chapter and their activities. The next award that we have is the APhA-ASP Outstanding Chapter Advisor Award, very similar to the Outstanding Dean Award except for it's going to the chapter's advisor. The next award is the APhA-ASP Student Leadership Award, and this award is a little unique because we actually give out 4 of them, and this is for a student pharmacist that is currently in their next to last year of school, and we're looking for not only outstanding academic achievement, but also being a leader either at their school, at the regional level, or at national levels, and really their involvement with APhA-ASP and how have they promoted your chapter, how have they helped your chapter grow. And the next individual award is the Good Government Student Pharmacist of the Year Award, and this is for a student pharmacist that has really raised awareness at the local or national level about policies that are affecting not only student pharmacists but the practice of pharmacy in general. This can go to a student pharmacist that is in any year of school, so there's not that stipulation there. And we really want to have a lot of information and descriptions about what their political activities have been and any supporting documents that can go along with that. And next we will kind of talk about some tips for the individual awards. So I did mention before that they're going to have a letter from the nominee, the CV or resume from the a letter from the nominator, and then the CV or resume from the nominee, and then the letters of support. It is very helpful if all of those can be put into one PDF document. I personally do not know how to combine multiple things into one PDF, but I know people at my college are able to do that. So if you are not able to do that on your own, I would look for someone in your college, or if you have a friend that knows how to deal with Adobe, ask them for help, because it's much easier for you all to submit one PDF than having multiple attachments. It's also important to know that for the Tice Award and the Outstanding Dean and Outstanding Advisor, those can be renominated in using the same packet for 4 consecutive years. And as I said before, for the letters of recommendation, we encourage them to be from students. We really like to have diverse letters of recommendation, so colleagues of whoever is being nominated, peers, you know, anything that you can think of would be good for us to see. And we also recommend that you are getting those letters in over the summer. That way the letter writers have time to write a good letter and everything can get put together without there being a rush. You can find more information about this in the APhA Award Application Guidebook, which is available online. And it's important to note that the Good Government and Student Leadership Awards do have a few specific requirements that are laid out in that guidebook for you. And then the next thing we have is just for the patient care project reports. So the deadline is July 15th, and as Amy alluded to earlier, we're only submitting reports for Operation Diabetes, Operation Heart, and Operation Immunization. I believe there was a confusion during the annual meeting when we had talked about Operation Self-Care, so just to clear that up, there are going to be only 3 reports submitted for the patient care projects. They're going to have similar formats to the chapter achievement awards in terms of having the essay, the chronological list, executive summary, and those guidelines are all available online, and the submission process is the same way as your chapter achievement reports. And then just as a side note, Generation RX is due January 5th, which is a different deadline than all of the other ones. And then the last award that we have is the Distinguished New Practitioner Award, and this is for an APhA member that is practicing within the first 5 years of graduation. And for this award, we're looking for a new practitioner who has really remained involved in APhA and is helping impact their community, and especially their involvement with student pharmacists, and even within an APhA-ASP chapter if they're still involved in that capacity. Again, we really want to look at the impact that they're having on the profession and on the student pharmacists that they are involved with. And again, the nominations for this can be completed by students. So if you all have a new practitioner that is involved with your chapter, definitely nominate them for this award, because it is a huge achievement for them as well. And that will wrap up kind of the quick overview of all of the award sections. So now I will turn it over to Allie to move on to submitting your chapter reports.
Awesome, Jamie. Thank you so much. It's good to be with y'all tonight. So I'm going to go over a little bit about submitting your chapter report. All of these documents should be reviewed multiple times before you submit them. We suggest 3 to 5 other people go through and edit. They can be other student pharmacists, your advisors are great resources for this, or anybody else who can come in and just look for those final edits. These documents will be submitted as a PDF to Dropbox. It won't be your personal Dropbox, it'll be the Dropbox for the chapter. And each chapter already has a Dropbox set up. You may not have access to it at this time, but a past president or your advisor will have access. So just to make sure that you have contacted them and you're getting set up so that you can access it in the summer when you're trying to update and upload the documents. And then this folder should contain 4 different files. The chapter achievement report, so the overall chapter report that Amy went through, as well as the 3 operations diabetes, heart, and immunization. However, if your chapter is choosing not to submit a report for one of the patient care projects this year, you do not need to submit or make a blank folder. That causes confusion on our end, deciding whether or not you meant to leave it blank or not. So just if you have those folders, to upload them there, if not, just to leave it off. This is a great resource for every chapter to take a look at before you submit. It's the final review checklist. It's one of the appendices in the appendices and the chapter reporting guidelines. I think it's either K or L, but go in there and you'll definitely see it. Just some major tips that you'll hear us say a lot, as well as to help your chapter write the best report possible. A little bit about the chapter report review process. I think once chapters are able to understand what we're doing on our end, it helps the whole process just run a little bit more smoothly. So July 15th is that really important day, that day that's so exciting for so many student pharmacists around the nation, where you get to submit that chapter achievement report. So you submit it on the 15th of July. During August, the chapter achievement reports are sent to us, the award standing committee, for review. And then between August and November, we work very diligently to independently read each and every report, and we review all of the submitted reports in November. However, on November 1st is the deadline for individual awards, those awards that Jamie was just going over with y'all. And then in November, mid-November, all the award standing committee members meet in Washington, D.C., and we go over the reports and decide on awards and placements. And then in March, we do the review sessions at annual meeting, as well as the awards presentation. And then a little bit about the chapter performance system. So this is just a method for us and y'all to track individual chapter improvement for both APhA-ASP and your individual chapter. And this process is done on a star system, and we look for levels from 0 all the way up to 5. So to get a 0 star would be to not meet the minimum requirements. However, most chapters do meet the minimal requirements, and they are in that 3-star range. And then chapters can be a 5-star chapter where they have outstanding performance and they are really being leaders within the profession. And then this just breaks it down a little bit more, how each the different criteria within the chapter achievement report receives a star ranking. So we'll have a specific star ranking for the chapter leadership and operations section, the patient care section, the professionalism section, and the policy and advocacy section. And then we have an overall score for the chapters, which are based on an average of all the 5 criteria, as well as continuous improvement. And then more details about this can be found in Appendix K of the reporting guidelines, with a list of the star designations for all the chapters. That wraps it up for me. I'm going to pass it over to Abby for some tips.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm just going to go over some general tips and then go through some specifics for you guys. You may hear things repeated a couple of times that some of the other ladies have said before this. If we're repeating it, that means that it's actually important. So pay attention to those things that you've heard more than once. So just generally with the reporting system, make sure that you start early And find a way to make it easier for your chapter to report all the awesome things that you're doing. So things like creating forms so that you can get that chronological list updated throughout the year and not have to scramble to do it at the end. Make sure you have a timeline for reports and stay on that timeline so you're not rushing to write excellent reports. Make sure that you know who's going to be writing your reports and that they know that they're going to be writing it and that they are prepared to do so. And always, always, always proofread. Like I said, we've said this several times, and you'll hear it a couple more times from me. Proofreading is very, very important. So for the chronological list, this is single-spaced, and the chronological list, you want to organize it by date. And whenever you have events that recur multiple times, so for example, your chapter meetings, list that under one entry, but include all of the dates. So we know that you met at least 8 times as a chapter, but that it happened multiple times and you don't have several entries in that chronological list. Remember that this chronological list is supposed to include everything that your chapter does. This is how we get a full picture of all the activities that your chapter holds, because we know that you can't fit everything into that essay because there is a word limit. This is the way to let us know everything that you're doing without having to put everything into that essay. This is just an example of one of those forms for the reporting system, that chronological list, and how the chronological list should look after you have submitted that form. Now, whenever you're telling us about your goals, make sure that you're really specific with these goals and that we can actually measure them, because if they're sort of vague, then we can't really tell if you've actually achieved the goals that you set out to achieve. For collaborations, this can be difficult for chapters to report, but you want to make sure that you clearly define what that collaboration looked like. So did you initiate the event? Did you work with another organization to conduct the event, to recruit people, to help out with the event, to recruit patients, however you helped out? Make sure you clearly define that. And don't report things that your members attended but that was not promoted or conducted, initiated, anything like that by your APhA-ASP chapter. Now for the writing style, remember that this essay is a formal essay. So again, grammar and spelling are very important, and we need you to proofread multiple times. Trying to avoid laundry lists, what I like to say is avoid fluff. Don't use abbreviations unless you tell us what that is first. So if you have some type of abbreviation like an umbrella organization, define that first, and then you can use it again later. Never give us a naked ASP. You always use APhA-ASP. It's the same with student pharmacist. You never use pharmacy student. It's always student pharmacist. Try to avoid the first person view. Remember that this is a report of what your chapter has done, not what you as an individual who's writing the report has done. So you want to make sure that we know that your entire chapter is involved. Try not to use individual names. Again, it's not the work of one person, it's the work of a chapter. So the only individual names that we really want to see are important people, like if you had a senator come and talk to you, or if someone from the National Executive Committee came to visit your chapter, you can use their names, but don't use a name within your chapter. Make sure that you're looking at your word count. Make sure that you stay on your word count. And again, avoid fluff. Tell us what you did, how you did it, and why you did it. Be concise. Give us the information that we need, because we can't judge what you and look at what your chapter is doing unless you tell us about it. But avoid just extra information that we don't really need. So for formatting is important because whenever we're going through all of these essays, and you have to remember that we're reading essays from over 100 chapters across the country. So keeping the formatting the same between each essay and between each report helps us not to be distracted. Make sure that you're only submitting PDFs and that they're double-spaced, because this allows room for us to take notes as we're reading through the essays. Always include a word count. Make sure that your margins are normal, and make sure that you label your documents so that we can keep track of them very accurately. Don't worry about creating cover pages. And whenever you're referencing a photo or a supporting document, make sure you use a superscript so that we know what you're talking about. And that way you're also not wasting the words that you are allowed to use referencing one of these pictures or supporting documents. That superscript allows you to put that at the end so you're not wasting your word limit, but we can know what you're talking about. Again, make sure everything's consistent between sections. You wouldn't be surprised that font and the size changes between each section. And if you do have track changes, whenever you're going in through and commenting on your report and editing back and forth, make sure you take that off whenever you submit it. So what are some items that are commonly left out of reports that we need to see? Descriptions of your just general chapter meetings. So this doesn't have to be a play-by-play of what happens at every single meeting, but let us know if you have speakers that come in and talk, or do you guys have some type of group discussions? Do you give updates? Do you provide food? That kind of thing. Make sure that you're giving us a brief overview of your executive board structure. So we know that a lot of chapters have different structures to meet the needs of their chapter. So just give us an idea of what that structure looks like. You don't have to describe each position like what the president does, but just give us an idea of what that structure looks like. Then make sure that you tell us about how involved your members are. So they help plan events or do they just attend them? Give us an idea of that. Don't forget to describe your fundraising efforts. And this isn't just what you do for fundraisers, but how successful they are. Give us an idea if you met your goals and then what you use those funds for. So do you use them to fund patient care activities, travel to meetings, anything like that? This helps us gives us an idea of what you're using this for. Don't forget to describe how you promote your activities to the public and how you communicate within your own chapter. Any relationships that you have with other professional organizations, other pharmacies in the community, anything like that. And if you have that new practitioner, that's a great thing to mention here as well. So again, just some general tips. Make sure to review the last 2 reports during your transition meetings. This sort of helps you know what your chapter has done in the past and what you can do to build on those activities. It also gives you an idea of what those reports should look like. Try to avoid excessive analogies, repeating the same words, or using bolding and underlining way too much. That can be distracting for us. Again, you want to avoid the fluff and give us the information that we need to be able to see all of the amazing things that your chapter does. Always turn in the correct version of the report, so try to make sure that you don't have any notes that are left in there. Never go over the word limit. We will, if it looks like it's over 1,500 words, we will stop reading at 1,500 words, so please don't do that. And this one's important too. Don't describe activities that we already know about. So for example, SLI. The majority of the award standing committee has either been to this or we know a good deal about this. So we don't need you to tell us what happens there. Let us know that you attended because that's a great professional development for your chapter, but don't waste your words explaining what it is. Again, we want you to use your words to give us an idea of all the amazing things that you do, not telling us things that we already know. Never be negative. You always want to focus on the positive. We always want to look on the bright side, and we always want to root for you guys. So always give us the positive side of your chapter. Don't be negative about what's going on. When you do have pictures as the supplemental documents, make sure that they're ones that add to the report. So give us pictures of patients that are being seen at one of your clinics, or an interaction with a part of the legislature, something like that. Make sure they're cited correctly, and make sure that they're really good quality too, because these pictures are ones that can be used for those slideshows that you see at the annual meetings such as APhA 2015. Whenever you're telling us things about local pharmacy chains or things that are very specific to your chapter or to your community, give us enough information so that we know what you're talking about. But if it's a global issue, again, don't describe that. Just give us information on things that we wouldn't know much about. Make sure that you clearly define how your chapter was involved in each event. So again, it goes back to that collaboration issue. When it comes to umbrella organizations, You have to give us really a good idea of what your APhA-ASP chapter does within that umbrella organization and how events are planned within that umbrella organization. Another important thing is to discuss only completed projects, not plans. Only things that you have done. And then whenever you complete those plans, then tell us about that in the next report. So do always be concise. Again, avoid the fluff. Have multiple people review your report. Again, this is really, really important. Submit only PDFs. Make sure that they're in the right format and that you have everything that you're supposed to have. And again, with those photos, make sure that they're not only high quality, but just that they are portraying something that is meaningful. Try to avoid telling us how great pharmacy is. We totally agree with you that pharmacy is awesome, but we don't want you to spend your word count focusing on that. We want you to focus, again, on all the things that your chapter is doing, because the only way that we know what your chapter is doing is if you tell us about it. So use your words wisely. Don't wait until the last minute to start. Again, it's really important to plan ahead. Don't repeat items in several sections, and try to avoid duplicating pictures or supporting documents. So that's it for the tips. This is our contact information. Again, the chair is Lucy, and then it has each of the regions here, and underneath the regions is your contact person for from the award standing committee with our emails there. So if you have any questions at all and you're from Region 6, please feel free to email Amy, and we will get back to you with any questions that you have regarding the reporting process. And then for more information, you can go to the Chapter Achievement Awards website there. You can get the communication style guide. And then again, Crystal Outwell is our staff member for this. So if we can't answer your questions, we will get in touch with Crystal, or you can as well. And now I believe we're going to start taking questions. So I'll pass it back over to Amy for now.
So we can move into questions now. We do have a couple that have come in during the presentation. We have received a couple. Is it possible to get the slides, or are the slides available? The slides are not yet available, but this session is being recorded, and the recording will be put on YouTube hopefully by next week. So you can look for that on the APhA-ASP YouTube page. Next question. As for not reporting names, for those who attended SLI, should we just report their position titles? That is correct. So if your president or president-elect attended the Summer Leadership Institute, you can use their position titles instead of saying their names, because if you just said their names, we may not know that they are the president or president-elect. Next question, is there a separate webinar on writing up the reports for the specific patient care projects? There is not a separate webinar. All of the guidelines about the specific patient care project reports, such as Operation Diabetes, Immunization, Generation RX, Heart, those are available within the patient care section. So if you go to pharmacist.com and go to APhA-ASP projects and programs, and then in those specific project sections, you can find all of the reporting guidelines. But in general with those, they are looking for similar ideas, the innovation, collaboration, impact, and involvement. At annual meeting, okay, so a couple of people were confused about self-care, so we do know that there was that discrepancy, and Jamie mentioned this as well, but I will reiterate that self-care will not be included as a separate report. There won't be awards given for self-care. However, if you continue to do Operation Self-Care type initiatives at your chapter, please feel free to include those in the patient care project section of the chapter achievement report. but there won't be a specific report to Operation Self-Care. And with the patient care, Veronica asked, I thought the patient care section of the essay and the Chapter Achievement Award report are where we incorporate our chapter's non-nationally recognized patient care outreach activities. Our chapter has a lot of other committees and I don't want them to go unnoticed. Certainly bring attention to those in your patient care award section. We do want to highlight those and we love to see the innovation, so do highlight those within that section. But if you can mention just briefly the other projects that you participate in, that would be great too. Within the chronological list, you can always go into more detail about each of the projects or activities that you're doing. But if are those more innovative things, you can put more focus on those. But do please mention the other projects that you're participating in as well. We know it's hard to get that into 1,500 words, but it is possible. Taylor asked, when will the new chapter report guidelines be out? Those we're hoping to have available to you by the beginning of May. We do every year while we're going through the process see if there are ways that we can improve on the process for you and for us. So we shouldn't have too many changes, but we are discussing those and are hoping to have the new guidelines out to you by the beginning of May so that you can take a look at those before you finish putting all of your reports together. Taylor has also asked, so for Operation Heart, Diabetes, and Operation Immunization, we will be writing 3 separate 1,500-word reports for each. So yes, so there is always some confusion about this every year. So within your Chapter Achievement Award report, you have the patient care section, which talks about an overview of all of the patient care that your chapter is involved with. However, the operations, Operation Heart, Diabetes, Operation Immunization, as well as Generation RX, get their own separate reports. These are also due July 15th, with the exception of Generation RX being due in January. So those do have their own separate reports. I believe it is 1,500 words. It might be 2,000, but that is available in the guidelines within each of those sections on the website. I hope that answers your question. For schools that have multiple campuses, if we hold similar events at our separate campuses, such as general body meetings, health fairs, etc., should we list them separately in the chronological list? Also, what if the 2 campuses have different leadership structures? So if you have different leadership structures, I would encourage you to mention both of them in your logistics, the chapter operations section. We do want to hear equally about both campuses, not just the whole report shouldn't be just about the main campus. It should include everything about both campuses. If you are holding similar events, such as general body meetings, I think that you should put them separately since they're on the 2 separate campuses in the chronological list. But make sure for everyone, those general body meetings, you don't have to put each general body meeting as a separate entry. You can put them all together as one, just with different dates. For different campuses, I would split those up. A question about formatting. So I'm going to give this question to Abby. Our chapter received feedback to bold and underline important facts and figures. Tonight we were told not to overboard, though. Is there a good balance that we should have?
So what I've been telling people is to really bold or underline numbers or things that you think are really important or that you're very proud of. So you have to remember if you were reading an essay that you've never seen before and it's all bolded, then it's essentially not bolding anything. It's just very distracting for us. We like to see the bolding and the underlining because we read these reports more than one time. And whenever we're scanning back through that second or third time or more than that, it sort of helps things jump out at us. Does that answer the question, hopefully?
Yes, that was very good. I do want to briefly mention before we continue on with questions, again, reinforcing the Dropbox. So you'll be putting all of the reports into the Dropbox. Allie mentioned this too. You may not have access to the Dropbox yet, but you will. Either your advisor or your past president do have access to that Dropbox. Every chapter has one, but make sure you're not just putting the reports into your personal Dropbox. We will not be able to see those. Make sure it's going into the APhA-ASP Dropbox that we also have access to. We don't want you to have any problems with submitting your reports late and not being able to get any awards because of a miscommunication with Dropbox. So make sure that you do use the correct Dropbox when you are submitting those reports. If you have any questions about that, we can help answer that, but your advisor and current president should have access to those. When highlighting Generation RX in the patient care portion of the essay, should it be from the June 1st through May 31st, 2015 period? This is a great question. So in the patient care section of the essay for your chapter achievement report, all sections, all projects and programs will be that June 1st through May 31st, 2015 period. The other patient care separate reports that get submitted are that same period, but I do understand that there is some confusion with Generation RX specifically because their reporting cycle is June 1st through December 31st. But for your chapter achievement report, the Generation RX will be the same as the rest of the report that you're submitting. Are we able to get a report of our chapter's report last year if we did not attend the session at annual meeting? Yes, so if you did not get to set up a meeting with one of the award standing committee members at annual meeting, they will be sending out those feedback forms. So you'll still be able to receive the feedback, and if you have any specific questions about those forms, you can speak to the award standing committee members that email you, but yes, you will be getting that feedback. You won't miss out because you weren't able to attend annual meeting or you weren't able to set up one of those meetings. And one more question, if we collaborated with another school's APhA-ASP chapter, should we include all the information from the other chapter, like number of members present? If you're collaborating with another chapter, they will likely also be reporting that, so they can report their members, but you should only report your specific chapter's your specific chapter's members and what your specific chapter did. So you can talk about the event, and we love to see collaboration between chapters. That's great. But make sure you're reporting only on specifically what your chapter is doing, not what the other chapter is doing. We want to make sure that the correct chapter is getting the recognition if that is the case. We did have a hand raised before. I think we still do. Tara Landis, I'm going to unmute you, see if this works, so you can ask your question. You're unmuted, so go ahead. Tara? Oh, hand went down. So it looks like we don't have a question with that anymore. Another thing that sometimes people have questions about is about your advisor having to sign off with the reports. We know that it's due in July, and advisors are people too, and they're probably out and about, and you may not have, it may be difficult for you to get your advisor's signature, but you also hopefully are planning for this far enough in advance that you can speak to the advisor ahead of time and get the necessary information before. Please do still submit that chapter report. We do need and want your advisor's signature, but if that's the only thing missing, we can work to make sure that we get that as soon as possible, but make sure that you do get eventually, but don't let that hold you back from submitting that chapter achievement report. Another question that I think we've received in the past is about getting copies of the previous year's chapter achievement report. Hopefully you are saving that documentation within your chapter. Your past president, your advisors should have access to those. If you absolutely can't find it, we do have the past chapter achievement reports, but again, that documentation is very important, and hopefully you're keeping those from year to year, with whether it's in a chapter Dropbox or on Google Drive or something, so that you'll have access to it. Someone in the chapter should have it, but worst case scenario, we do also have the copies of the chapter reports. What other questions do you all have? We have a couple of minutes if there are any more. If any of the standing committee members have any final comments or common questions you've seen and want to throw those out there, that would be good too. Seeing none, I'm going to hand it over to Amy to wrap up.
Okay, well, thank you all for attending tonight. I'm going to try to go back. Yeah, I'm just going to go back to this one slide. So if you all need to write down emails or figure out which region and who is who, that you can do that in these final few minutes. Please, like Lucy said, don't hesitate to reach out to us with questions. If you need clarification on anything, we're here and very much happy and willing to help you all out. So with that, I think I will just say thank you again for attending, for your time, and we look forward to getting some awesome reports this next year. So have a great evening.